Well, we have another very special guest today. Today we are joined by the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, my former boss, Denis McDonough, who is working tirelessly to build and restore trust in the VA. As you all know, Secretary McDonough served as White House Chief of Staff in the Obama-Biden administration
Nepotism.
for 4 years.
Here we go.
He also served in several roles on the National Security Council, including as Principal Deputy National Security Advisor. Throughout his service at the White House, Secretary McDonough helped lead the Obama-Biden administration's work on behalf of military families and veterans.
There you go.
He has a busy schedule, as all of our cabinet members do, but he has kindly agreed to also take a couple of questions after he speaks, and I will, as always, be the bad cop. Come on up.
Bad cop. All right, guys, check it out.
Thanks so much. It's a total joy to be working with you, as it always is.
Her boss,
and
her ex-boss.
Everybody here. It's nice to see some old
David Burns. Kind of looks like David Burns.
I want to obviously thank Jen for inviting me.
Let's
today,
ask you this:
to speak about the importance of the
obviously
American
contagious.
Rescue Plan, particularly as it relates to its support to the VA to provide quality care to our veterans, especially during the very challenging pandemic.
Okay.
Like other hardworking
So check it
Americans,
out.
veterans have
This
been
guy's going to
severely
sell
impacted
us
by
the American
coronavirus
Rescue
pandemic.
Plan
Countless
for Biden,
veterans have lost
not for
jobs,
veterans.
closed
It's
businesses,
not there. How much money is in there for veterans?
their own
We'll cover
children,
that.
And
But
faced
this
uncertain
man
prospects
is talking
while our
to
nation
us
grappled with the
to
pandemic.
sell this program.
And like the
That's
rest
his
of the
sole
country,
purpose.
many veterans were directly
Now, as
affected by
a
the deadly
veteran
virus,
myself,
with more than
I
230,000
am absolutely
veterans in our care
offended
infected by
that
it,
Biden
and
couldn't find a
sadly,
veteran
10,605 dying from the
This is the
disease.
second time this has happened.
At the VA,
But this
we've risen to the
jackass
challenge of combating this deadly
has
pandemic. Our integrated
found
healthcare
some
system, the largest in the nation, has been running
leftist
nonstop since the start of the pandemic. to
guy
provide
who would
much-needed
never
care
pick
to
up a
infected
rifle to
veterans
defend his
and
country,
vaccines
who
to
would
those most
never
at risk.
jump in a
To date,
foxhole
more
and
than
start shooting
1.4
to
million
defend
veterans have been
his
vaccinated,
brother.
with
This guy
more than
is a
half
wimp
of them
and should not represent
gotten
the
both
honor of
vaccines.
America, the
And we're
backbone
making
of
sure that
America,
equity
the
is at
defenders
the
of America.
forefront
How do you
of
get
where and how we distribute vaccines? At
a
the same
sheep like
time, we
this
continue to deliver
to
routine
represent
care while
veterans?
mitigating the spread of infection.
insulting?
VA
Joe,
is
you have
leading the
insulted
country
every
in
veteran
standardizing the use
in
of
the United
telehealth
States
for routine doctor visits.
with this
We're
guy.
partnering with community and service organizations so
back
that
to
vets
this guy.
do not forego checkup for our veterans.
Sell that program,
so we can
dude.
continue to push through the pandemic.
Dennis,
Lastly,
sell it.
before getting into a little bit more detail on the health situation, the Veterans Benefits Administration continues to help
What?
veterans cope with the economic impact of the pandemic.
No, they don't.
From
I haven't
helping
heard from
veterans
them.
avoid eviction and foreclosure, that VA can continue
Because that's
to
the tiniest
adapt
slice
to these
of
challenging
veterans.
times, and the President's
people
American
going to
Rescue
school.
Plan will do just that. It will provide $17 billion in
Rah,
additional
rah,
funding
sell
to
that
VA
plan,
to
Dennis.
include at least $13.5 billion to improve our ability
a shame.
to provide medical service to veterans affected by COVID. $272 million to cut through the backlog of disability claims.
So you had to
and,
get $2 million
help us manage the
to
compensation
cut through the
exams
backlog
that have
of
worse access
something
to which have
that
worsened
you
as a result of
created
the
through your
pandemic.
lack of
And
ability to
$386
manage
million
the VA.
to develop a
let's
rapid
throw some
retraining
money in it.
program for veterans.
None of this
unemployed
money
as a result of the
benefits veterans. None of it.
Now,
Zero.
Let me just
It
give
goes
you
to
one
pay
other,
salaries for shells
figure
like
for you to
this.
consider. Since the start of the pandemic, 19 million appointments have been changed, canceled, or deferred as a result of the pandemic. 19
How many
million.
are
What we
canceled,
believe
deferred,
is
or whatever?
Obviously, we've been able to
before the
to
pandemic.
compensate for those through the telehealth platform.
Compare and contrast. How is that any different?
And as a result of deferred care,
And who caused
which
them
we're
to be
actually
canceled? Because
seeing
I'm sure the
across the
vets
healthcare
weren't
system,
like, I
not
don't want to
just
go to
the
the doctor
VA.
and get
we're going to
fixed.
see increased costs.
I don't want to go to the doctor and get my
And
medication.
the ARP is critical to our ability to make sure that we can keep up with
ARP.
those demands of the increased
Oh, I
costs.
didn't know there was an acronym.
So our
now.
department remains fully committed, obviously, to fulfilling the sacred obligation that President Biden has made clear we have to those who serve in uniform.
It just
rescue
cracks me up anytime
helps us
anybody
deliver on that
says
promise,
Biden has done
especially in
anything
this
clearly
unanticipated and
or
significant
lucidly.
time of crisis. We urge the Senate to pass the much-needed plan as soon as possible, and I thank you again, Jen, for the opportunity to be here with you.
All right. Go ahead, Jeff.
God, what a freaking insult. You got no right to represent vets. None.
Go about looking as to where to sign up for vaccinations. Should they be going to the VA or should they be going to their states and localities? It's certainly been one of the trickiest parts of the vaccination process to figure out information on that.
Yeah, so I want to start by telling, I think, what is a very positive story. Oftentimes you don't, at least we've not in the past been focused on good news stories about our scheduling process. Our scheduling process is actually working pretty well.
Let me cut you here. Let me cut you here.
So the
Just
first
shut up.
answer, Jeff,
Just
is
shut up.
Those veterans
I
in
had
our
surgery
care,
at a VA
currently
hospital.
in the
It was the
75
worst
and
experience of
older
my
and
life.
65 and older, who are
But
our
I'm not the
particular
only
focus
one.
at the moment.
Have you heard the
Should
movie
be hearing
Born on the
from
4th
our
of July?
schedulers. And
Had
our
Tom
schedulers are
Cruise.
in contact
That
with
was a
them.
true
And if you
story.
just take an
That
example
happened
of
to a man who
the
was
VA
so
here,
motivated, so
in
inspired
DC,
by his
they're moving
experience at the
through
VA
something on
hospital.
some days,
He
something
wrote a
like 80
movie
veterans
showing how
vaccinated
horrible
right
it was.
now.
And now you
that's
want national
obviously
health care? You want to see
because
how
of the
good the
vaccinators,
feds are
it's
good
because
at
of the
running, the
pharmacists,
feds
it's
are
because
at
of the
running
nurses, but it's
a
also
healthcare
because of the
system.
schedulers.
Look at the VA hospitals.
doing an amazing
It is
job.
a travesty.
thing
It's
is,
so
they should be
bad. They
hearing
made a
from
movie
our
about it.
schedulers. The
Horrible.
second thing is we have a bunch of information on our website at va.gov, including how to get
You want to do a good
access
job, fix
to,
that.
Opportunities.
Let's take care of our veterans. Here's something else I want to do.
VSO
I don't think
partners
anybody would
and
be
directly
against
with
this.
veterans
Every
through even
war
my
veteran
office whom we're hearing from,
has to be a
make sure
war
that they
veteran,
have
not
the
just a
most recent
veteran.
information. Are there
Every war
examples
or
of
conflict
frustrations?
veteran
Absolutely.
gets
But
the
we're staying,
exact same
obviously,
health care
on top of this, Jeff,
that
trying
our
to be as
Congress
transparent
people
as
get.
possible.
You know,
And in the first
you can be in
instance,
Congress
reaching
for
veterans
4 years,
directly,
and you will have
to
health
schedule
care for the rest of your life, and you have a pension for the rest of your life. Let's give that health care to our war veterans.
But also hearing from their local
Comment below.
or going to their state or local facilities as well.
Definitely. And many of our veterans are obviously, this is the beauty of the integrated system, which is we provide care across the range of services. And so many of our, the over 6 million vets who are with us, rely on us for care across the board, are very sophisticated consumers of care. But then we have up to 9 million who are enrolled in the VA system, and they have choices, and we're seeing them make choices. But again, we are trying to be as affirmative and on the front foot as we can be so that we're providing that kind of
I
information.
guess what I'm getting at, and sorry to ask one more, isn't there some inefficiency there that would be a problem? Like if veterans just knew we can get our shots from the VA, that will clear space at these other facilities for other people, and it would ideally give them priority at the VA.
Yeah, and I guess my answer isn't that there's not overlap and that there's not competition. There obviously is. But I think what we are seeing, Jeff, is that we are very efficiently moving veterans who qualify through the system, and we're hearing very positive feedback on that. There inevitably is going to be some overlap,
buddy.
and that's what we're trying to get ahead of with forward contacting and also providing information as clearly as we can about dates and times for vaccinations, how those clinics are going to function with Johnson & Johnson. And
Here's your crock.
enhancing the
Here's your crock,
manufacturing
ladies and
capacity.
gentlemen.
So the big challenge for us is
Supply is
From
at an
what I hear from our
all-time
docs
low.
is
Demand
from the
is at an
moment we get
all-time
it,
high, right?
Our
The
allotments
federal
are in
government,
arms within 2
starting
feet.
with
Okay, so I think that's a pretty remarkable throughput.
President
Now, on
Trump
hesitancy,
has thrown
our lead
so
doc on
much
this testified
money
last week
at
Congress
this. In
that,
fact, Trump
we're surprised
bought
that hesitancy
a
is less
pre-bought
than we
100 million
Now,
doses
that doesn't mean that
before
we're
they
not
even
gonna
made
confront
it.
But
100
right
million
now,
doses.
We're seeing
Money is not an
significant
issue.
demand.
Throwing money
That demand
at
outstripping
supply
supply.
will not
And that demand
fix your supply
consistent
problem.
across
This is
categories.
not about
In fact,
money.
our performance
This is
among
about
black vets,
logistics,
Latino vets, and
being
white vets
actually
is
able
pretty
to
consistent,
produce
if not outperforming
the
black
vaccine
and Latino
has
white
nothing to do
vets,
with money.
white vets up
So throwing
Nevertheless, this is
another
gonna be a problem
$1
going
trillion
forward, so we're working very closely
at
with
the
our
pharmacies
VSOs,
to
very
make more
closely with
more
Congress,
vaccines. That's
and
not
then
going to
very
work
closely
unless
to
they
tell the
build
story
a new
of the
facility.
More than 1.4
They're
million vets
operating at
who have gotten
100%
vaccinated to
with
date.
200% profit.
We're talking about
Money's
what
not gonna
that
fix it.
experience has been, which is overwhelmingly positive. But we need the funding from ARP to get this done.
We've seen 30-plus veterans be arrested for participating. We see these militia groups that are actively trying to recruit veterans. What, if anything, can the VA do? Are you considering doing to try and combat some of this?
Yeah, so I also, just to fill out the story, I also saw veterans on that day, including members of Congress who were veterans doing remarkable things, including members of the DCPD and the Capitol PD.
Thank
Veterans
you.
Doing remarkable things.
Thank you for the
And
positive.
so I think it's a full picture there.
Yes.
That underscores that.
But the ones that
basically,
did positive things
veterans
weren't kicked
continue
out of the
to play a
military
critical
for
role,
voting for
in the
Trump.
country.
That's her point.
Even I want to make sure that we have a full picture of things like remarkable members in the House. Mr. Gallego is one who comes to mind. Senator Cotton in the Senate. These people taking concrete action in support of democracy on the ground that day.
Senator Cotton?
They're vets too.
I may like this guy. If you give props to Senator Cotton, who's a sworn enemy of the Democrats, I may like this guy. David Burns. I keep waiting for him to break into Once in a Lifetime. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was.
Secretary, at the top of your remarks, you mentioned the importance of keeping veterans in their homes. The moratorium on forbearance and foreclosures, of course, was extended through June.
Yes.
Do you think it should be extended further?
Well, we'll take a look at that, and we're taking a look at a lot of those things. Incidentally,
It ain't going to be
importantly,
fixed in June.
In the ARP,
They're not
there's
gonna-
additional funding for
What a pipe dream.
homelessness programs.
You screwed it up for a year.
We know that
You're
this
not going to fix it in a
continues
couple
to,
of months.
So we need that funding in the ARP.
Thank you so much.
Sell that ARP, buddy.
Thank
Have
you.
to come
Sell that
back.
program.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's great to see everybody.
Oh, is he
All
glad
right,
he was
a
running
couple
out of
other
there?
things at the top. As you all saw, many of you reported on this morning to pass the American Rescue Plan to get $1,400 checks to the American people. You may
Looks
have
like that
also seen today,
$1,400
if you're covering
check isn't
economic
actually
issues, I should say,
$1,400 check.
That the Treasury Department
it's going to
announced
less
a new
people.
program called Emergency
Omar,
Capital Investment Program, called the
Congresswoman
Emergency Capital
Omar
Investment
pointed out the
Program.
Republicans
Through this program,
did
Treasury
more
will
for the
make a
American
$9
people
billion investment
for a
in
stimulus
community
check than the
financial
Democrats
institutions
did.
that have a track record as a part of his Build Back Better agenda.
Build
Also,
Back Better,
back to when he was vice
communism,
president,
Marxism.
serving in the last Democratic administration.
And socialism.
He
Build
believes
Back
we
Better.
have to rebuild our crumbling roads and bridges, improve our communities, and create good union jobs for Americans.
Why does she keep
This also
saying
tells
good
me to look at
union
Secretary
jobs?
Buttigieg
There are
here.
more non-union
So,
jobs out
relying
there
on
than
him
there
for
are
that.
union jobs.
One last
Obviously,
piece, I can't remember who
Biden's
it was,
being
but somebody
bought
in
by
here
the
asked
unions.
about
Look at what's happening with the
Mississippi,
teachers.
and the water
She
situation on
just
the ground
she
in
can't say
Mississippi. So,
job.
as
She
I
has to
mentioned,
say
I would.
good
We
union
followed up
job.
with
It's a
our FEMA
phrase
team.
with her.
We're of course continuing to closely
So
monitor the situation
corrupt.
in Jackson, Mississippi.
Including
This is an uncomfortable
the ongoing
question here.
crackdown against
Listen to her
protesters
answer. How
there.
many
Has there
uh-ums
been
we get
any
on her
outreach
answer?
to authorities there, and what's been the response?
Well, I will say first that the detainment of journalists, the targeting of journalists and dissidents is certainly something that is of great concern to the President, to the Secretary of State, and to every member of our administration. And certainly, this issue has been raised with the issue broadly is raised in virtually every diplomatic conversation that members of our team have. As you're very familiar with, the situation on the ground in Burma is troubling. We've obviously been working closely with our partners in the region. We've taken sanction steps, as you know, to send a clear message that it's unacceptable. I don't have any diplomatic conversations to update you on. Those would likely happen through the State Department. So I would certainly suggest you reach out to
Minute and a
them
half of
directly.
answer, and she didn't answer the
Domestically,
question.
we've seen a couple of high-profile IG reports.
Go ahead, Mary.
The governor of Mississippi has responded to the president's comments yesterday, and he seems to have taken offense at some of the president's
Neanderthal,
language.
who wouldn't?
He says Mississippians don't need
Oh,
pampers.
she has-
I just
she
think
has
we should
the
trust
prep-
Americans
prepared
and not insult
answer
them.
for this.
He's
You're
making
going
argument
through
that
her
this is really
binder.
about personal liberty here. Does the
Something's been
president,
said on this. We
have
got to
any
smooth this
second
over.
thoughts about the language that he used yesterday, and how does comparing someone to a Neanderthal help convince them to change course and get on board with your public health message?
The behavior of a Neanderthal.
Behavior
just to be
of a
very clear.
Neanderthal.
The behavior of. Look, I think the
They
president.
said you were acting like a
What everybody
Neanderthal,
saw yesterday
not that you
was
were
a
a
reflection
Neanderthal.
of his
Big
frustration
difference.
and exasperation, which I think many American people have. That for almost a year now, people across the country have sacrificed. And many times they haven't had information
So
they need from the federal
qualifying it,
government. They
saying
haven't
the
had
behavior of
access to
will get you out of
greater
any
understanding of what
insult,
the public
I
health
guess.
guidelines should look like. And those include many, many people in Mississippi, in Texas, in Ohio, Florida, in every state across the country. And, he believes that with more than 500,000 Americans'
You should
lives
start
lost,
bashing Trump.
with families that continue to suffer.
Get on a Trump
that,
rampage
it's
so that
imperative
you
that
can't-
people listen
Yeah,
across
I
the
didn't-
country,
he
whether
didn't say
they live in a red
Neanderthal,
state or a
he's
blue state,
Neanderthal behavior.
to
What about
the
Trump?
guidance of public
Wait,
health
did you
experts.
see what Trump
At
did?
the same time, you've watched the president closely for some time, Mary, as you all
It's
have.
not winter rules,
He's
and
going
he
to
picked up
engage
his ball in
with
the
and talk
fairway
with
and
people who
moved it.
disagree with him on a range of issues, including this one.
Hey, look,
But he
something
believes
shiny.
that if we're going to get this pandemic under control, we need to follow public health guidelines. He simply was asked the American people to abide by wearing masks for 100 days. We're at about day 40. Are we at day 40? Around there. 60 more days. That's what he's asking, and he's certainly hopeful that businesses and people across the country will continue to do that.
I guess that shows how popular his ask was, huh? How reasonable his ask
I don't
was. You
think,
asked for 100
his
days
view
and they
on mask
stopped not
wearing
even
is a
halfway
secret.
through.
They're certainly
Maybe you shouldn't
familiar
ask
with
for
it.
100
He's talked
days.
about it many, many times, and he can't do this alone. The federal government cannot do this alone.
Oh, but they
this is
thought
going to require
Trump could.
additional sacrifice from the American people. He doesn't think that's easy. None of us think that's easy, but he has ordered enough vaccines to ensure everybody in the country is vaccinated. And we will have those vaccines by the end of May. But it will require ongoing social distancing, ongoing mask wearing, as we've been talking about, and it will also require the American people getting the vaccine. He can't force individuals to do that. So he can just project the recommendations of public health officials. He can take steps, as he has over the last couple of days, to ensure that communities are prioritized who are playing key roles in society. But he can't do it on behalf of the public, and it is going to require the public to play an important and vital role here, too.
Just one question on vaccines. The president has been pretty critical of the prior administration's handling of this pandemic, saying you inherited a mess here. But when it comes to vaccinations, you are following some of the same playbook here. So does the prior administration deserve some credit for laying the groundwork?
Which ones are we following?
Well, for instance, former
How about
Trump
you're
HHS
following
Assistant
Dr.
Secretary
Fauci?
Admiral
He's
Brett
from
Giroir
Trump.
said that you're following 99% of the
How about
playbook
you're
you've created on
using
vaccines.
the
He
vaccines
said
that
the
Operation
prior
Warp
administration
Speed
deserves
created?
more
That's from
credit
Trump.
for at least getting the ball rolling on some of these.
I don't think anyone deserves credit when 500,000 people in the country have died of this pandemic. So what our focus is on, and when the president's focus is on when he came into office just over a month ago, was ensuring that we had enough vaccines. We are going to have them now. We had enough vaccinators and we had enough vaccine locations to get this pandemic under control. There's no question.
How about
and
every
all data
center
points to
that
the
is
fact
set
that there
up
were not enough
right
of
now,
any of those
except for
things
7
when
of
he took
them,
office.
Trump set up?
We are open-eyed
How about the
the
fact that you're
challenge
letting
and
the
continue
states
to,
do it even though you
live
said you
under,
weren't going to
and
do
that's why
that?
he has been focused every
Is
single
also
day in doing
from
everything
Trump.
possible to
Get
the
that
pandemic
coy
under
smile off your
control.
face.
But there were
You
shortages in all
ingrad.
those areas, which were
You know,
preventing
some
us
of your people were saying a vaccine could not be made. It took 5 years to make the vaccine. I think you and your family should stay in line for 5 years, since you're gonna follow everything that the anti-Trumpers said. Jump on that 5-year waiting list.
Troop levels in those 3 countries under his administration?
Well, certainly, we, of course, would work with the Pentagon and our national security team to ensure that transparency remains a priority, or is reprioritized, I should say, under this administration. I mean, I'd have to talk to our national security team and our team at the Pentagon about any restrictions they have, but that remains a vital priority for this president, and something I know he's projecting to his entire team.
And on the COVID bill, last night when the president was speaking to House Democrats, he said, "I know we're all making small compromises," as he tried to work everybody to support the bill or thank them for supporting their version of the bill. What exactly has the president asked moderates to compromise on in this process up to this point?
Oh, you have to ask them. Don't ask me. We don't speak for the president. When somebody says something in response to the president, if it only fits our agenda, will we say X, Y, Z? But otherwise, you have to ask them.
Openly about their concern about that. And he has been very clear that state and local governments need assistance now to keep cops on the beat, to keep teachers, to keep firefighters employed, and to keep state and local governments functioning.
Keep the teachers out of
I'm sure
this.
there may be other issues that
Did
they
you
have
notice
concerns
that?
about. I'll let them speak to that. But he has been
She stopped in her
insistent
dead in her
that,
tracks.
The scope of the challenge requires this size of a package.
And couldn't
in
finish
order
her
to
statement.
address these twin crises that we're facing, it needs to have these key components.
Crises?
included.
And then last
Crises,
again,
crisis,
the
or
president last night,
crises?
Democrats.
Process or
And
processes?
this will make
Processes,
everything more
processes,
possible to
crises,
get done.
crises.
If I can put it properly.
How annoying.
Passing this now.
Stop that.
Is that the
We don't look at it through a as political legislative of a lens as you just outlined, but I will say that the
Bullshit.
president came into office knowing that getting the pandemic
Everything
under
is
control,
political with you. It's
helping,
politics. It's the White
address,
House. You're a
put people
liar.
back
You're
to
lying
work, the
again.
millions and
Every
millions of
time you lie,
Americans who
you
are struggling to
erode the
make
trust
ends
of
meet,
the
the
American
1 in
people.
7 American families that
You
can't
do
put
look
food
at
on
it
the
through
table,
poli-
that he
everything you
knew
push through
that those would
Congress
be
is
his
political.
top two
Nothing
priorities,
is
his
for the
top 1, 2,
people.
3, 4. Pandemic,
You know,
economic
1.9
recovery,
trillion,
pandemic,
1.7
economic
trillion of it
recovery. And that
doesn't
is
go
what
to
this
the people.
package is
That's
meant to help
political.
address.
You liar.
And what I've heard him say, and this sounds consistent with that, while I don't know the full context of this, is that of course he wants to build his agenda beyond.
Maybe build it back better.
Build his agenda beyond getting the pandemic under control, beyond addressing and stemming the tide of an economic crisis, because he believes that investing in infrastructure is imperative and long overdue. He believes that modernizing our immigration system is long overdue and is good for the
How
American
long?
people, good for our economy.
Go back to
He
Obama
believes
long?
there needs to be more done for caregiving. He believes we need to do more to protect our health, to ensure more people have access to health care. So there's no question that
Everybody has
he-
access to
he
health care.
views,
Just go to the emergency room. Doesn't matter if you have insurance or not. That's why my insurance is so high. It's because people without crises
hardly going to be done with
it's
his
because they
amendment
go
work,
to the
once
emergency
we
room without
have this
insurance.
package signed.
Everyone has access
Go ahead,
to
Mario.
health and
Thanks, Jeff.
health quality
Does the
health
president
care.
believe that the House Ways and Means
Stop
Committee
that
should be able
propaganda.
to obtain Donald Trump's tax returns?
Justice, and our focus is on getting relief to the American people, on getting the pandemic under control. That's keeping us pretty busy, so we'll leave that work to
You better start
others in the
focusing.
federal
You better
government
walk
and
and
in
chew gum at the
Congress. Go
same
ahead.
If I
time,
can.
because that's out of your hands.
Sure.
Gasoline prices are approaching $3 per gallon for the first time since 2014. Americans, as you well know, are cash strapped. Is the president planning to
Gas?
intervene
You're not
somehow?
supposed to
OPEC
notice
Plus came
that.
out this morning and
We
said
got
they were
Democratic
gonna
gas
supply.
prices? Get
Does the
outta
president
here.
plan to intervene somehow,
When
maybe
gas
call,
goes
the
up,
Saudi
everything
government,
goes up.
Russia, anything
Everything.
to rein in the gas prices?
I don't have anything on that to preview for you.
Nothing to
I
preview?
will
No
say,
calls
since
to
you've
read
given
out?
me, sort of an opportunity and opening
No.
here is that there's
Gas?
been a lot of reporting on kind of what kind of relief
Why
would come out of the
did
American
the
Rescue
gas
Plan.
go
Something
up?
that can help
Answer that
address
question.
a
What
range of
in the
issues
world
the
is
American
that?
people are having, whether it's the cost of gas or it's the inability or concern about getting food on the table. So let me just
Why
take
did
this
gas
opportunity
go
to
up?
lay out some of the specific numbers. Our NEC team. I
There's
love
no
number crunchers,
reason why gas
crunched,
should have gone
for
up.
all of you.
None.
So
Zilch.
under the Senate version of the bill,
Why did it go up?
158.5
Because
million
the
households
Democrats are
going to
now the
receive
party of
direct
money and
payments.
big business.
That's $9,800. In some cases, as small as $100, because as you all know, it was
We'll go
scaled
back to
down
some
after a
stupidity,
certain
some
income
government
rate.
stupidity right
Under
here.
the rescue plan, almost all of these 158.5 million households are going to receive checks that are more than twice the size of the previous round. Not to
Bullshit.
mention the 66 million kids who will benefit from the expanded child tax credit, and
None of that
17
happened.
million adults who will benefit from the expanded
check's
earned
based on
income
my
tax credit, because of course there are
income
many
from
tax components,
2019.
as you all
Had a
know,
great job in
addition to the
2019.
direct checks that are included in this
2020,
package.
the government
just wanted
shut
to
my
give
job
a little
down.
number crunching laydown. Go ahead, Jeff.
Didn't make any money in 2020, but they're going to base my need on how much money I made in 2019. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Loosening or lifting of restrictions in those states.
How much money you need there, feller? How much did you make before the pandemic? Oh, then we're just going to give you $5 because you made good money before the pandemic. But the government closed my business forever. I didn't make any.
Get whatever
I
vaccine
didn't.
they have
I
access
didn't make
to,
any
because
money
many of them have,
because you shut my business down.
Yeah,
but before that, how
how
much money did you make?
make?
You should be fine then.
Reportedly,
You didn't make a
in
penny
some
in
of
all
the states.
2020.
So, I would say, Jeff, that
What'd you make the year
we are
before?
concerned
Well, that's what we're gonna look
the
at.
health
We're not going to base your need on what you need now. We're going to base your need on what you needed before the pandemic.
and in states where the guidelines are not, or where the
Americans to
I'm not going to say anything about that.
I'm
Getting
not
in
aware of
states'
any
rights here.
discussions, and I certainly wouldn't do that from
No, you
here.
better not.
But I would just say, Jeff,
Nor
that,
should Joe.
You know, we are.
You're going to prevent travel
we
from
are
state to
going
state,
continue
Joe.
to use,
That's
every
no
bully
longer
pull-
a
every
free
method
nation.
of the
Is the White House taking any additional security measures, and can you share any intel or readout about what you know about it?
Here's where you got to draw the line.
Let me first say,
None of your business.
on the specific
The special
dates
security
of
features
threats,
the White House, the
FBI,
government
DHS,
is taking for any threat is none of your business. Why would she turn around and tell Al Qaeda what the White House is doing in preparation of a threat? That's so stupid. There's some things we don't need to know, and that's what we're doing to protect ourselves. Don't tell everybody, oh, we're going to have 60 troops over there on the south lawn so ISIS can go around to the north lawn. Stupid question. You should be kicked out of the White House press corps. Stupid question. None of your business. Some things are none of our business.
And eager consumer
Why
of
is she
intelligence.
rifling through
and
her
as
book
you'd
like
expect,
that?
appropriate elements of the intelligence community and law enforcement are providing a steady pace of information and analysis on a regular basis on domestic
All that
violence
shuffling for
victims in
2
this country.
sentences she had to
Go ahead.
read?
Thank you, Jen. As more people are getting vaccinated every day, there's still a lack of clarity about what they should and shouldn't do. And we have reported that the CDC guidance for them was supposed to be released today, but that's no longer happening. Do you have any guidance about why not and when Americans should expect to see recommendations?
I would certainly point you to the CDC. I believe they said in your story, or maybe another story perhaps, that the CDC's guidance will not be posted tomorrow. This is a quote from them, because we have not finalized it here at CDC. Once it is final, we will publish and disseminate it.
Yeah, you got to
And
get
certainly
it
we know
on
people are
track
eager to hear
with
more
what
details
the
about
teachers'
steps
unions
they
need.
can take once they're vaccinated. And we
Yeah.
certainly think that once people have a sense of that,
This is
hopefully,
a big
and
sham.
we'll see it when we see
CDC
it,
wanted schools to
it
open
will,
up.
hopefully encourage people to get
But then
vaccinated
they
as
said,
well. But,
you know, teachers
they're
can
on
get
their own
vaccinated,
timeline,
but
and
children
we'll wait to
can't.
see when they're
And
ready
as
to
long
put
as
out that
children
guidelines.
can't get
So the White House
vaccinated, then
has not
teachers
seen
can't
them?
go back to work. Whereas before
I'm
they were
not
saying
aware
teachers
of
should
the
go
White
back to
House
work.
reviewing,
Well, they
the
flipped their
guidelines.
script
And then on
so that
Texas,
politically
Governor Abbott
flipped their
said
script
that the Biden administration
so that the teachers
must
didn't have to
stop
go back to work.
importing COVID into the country.
Back to
because
school. Sorry, back to
claims
school.
that
Sure. Well, we're about facts around here. That is not factual. So let me give you an overview of what happens. When migrants are placed in alternatives
We're
to
about
detention,
facts.
the
Better fact check
COVID-19
that.
testing. Our
Jesus
policy is for
Christ.
COVID-19 testing
Look out,
to be
guys.
done
Lightning's gonna
at the
strike
state and
that
local
woman.
level and with the help of NGOs
We're about
and
facts.
local governments. And that certainly is something that our policy is for.
and maybe at military bases or installations like we've seen in the past.
Well, I'm not in a
Yes.
position to confirm
That's
the
going to
specific
happen.
numbers. I can say that we are. There are, of course, a large number of open 5 days a week. That schools have
How
the
about spending
information
that
they
$1 trillion
need to put in
that's
place
still
the
left
mitigation
over from the
steps.
previous
Obviously, we need the
package?
money from the American Rescue Plan to get that done in certain
You
communities.
need it from the American Rescue Plan,
but
the
Our
ARP?
objective is for schools
What about the
to
$1 trillion
certainly be open.
that's left over from the
There is a
previous
reasonable
plan?
expectation for
What about that
parents and
money?
families to expect that kids will be back in what we think of as a more traditional classroom setting 5 days a week for the next grade in the fall.
She's not
Well,
going to
that
answer anything
certainly is
like
our
that.
hope and our objective.
That's their hope
But
and
the Secretary of
objective.
Education is
And
going
drop
to be
it.
leading this effort.
Stop.
He's going to have a summit he's announced. He's going to be working
If you
closely
can't answer the
to
question,
help
just say
school
you
districts
can't answer the
implement,
question
work
and
with
then
them to
stop with the
implement,
logoria.
These guidelines that have been put out by the CDC. And so I expect he'll have more to say on it.
And lastly, how quickly does President Biden plan to move to name a replacement for Mira Tandon?
I don't expect to have an announcement this week. Beyond that, I don't have anything to preview.
Because
for
you
I
didn't
would
have
say
a
our
plan
focus
B,
right
because
now
you
is
were
on
so
getting
headstrong
nearly
on that
half a
she
dozen
was going to
cabinet
get
nominees,
confirmed.
including our
You
nominee
didn't have a
to be
plan B,
Attorney
and the
General
whole
of the
time the
United
press
States,
corps
through
was saying, you need a plan B.
because
You need a plan
those are
B.
central roles we need to have in place leading these departments.
I'm sure there's
As
a
you know,
plan B.
he's
She just
nominated an incredibly
she just
qualified
refuses
and
to admit
well-respected,
that they were wrong
woman,
and
Shalanda
and
Young,
won't
to be the deputy at OMB.
answer the
And we're
question.
certainly hopeful.
Administration planning to ask FEMA to assist with the influx of children coming across the border? And if so, does that mean that you consider it an actual genuine emergency?
Well, I would say
An emergency,
that's
but not a
probably question
crisis.
for the Department of Homeland
Crises.
Security, who obviously oversees that, and the
Crises.
Department of Health and Human Services, who oversees
Because
the
my
facilities and
orca,
shelters where,
whatever his name
these
is, the
kids
guy that
are.
hates Trump so
Certainly one of
much,
our concerns
will
is
not admit that he was wrong,
there are
that there's a
areas
huge
that,
crisis on
as
the border.
we were talking about earlier, an influx of kids at a rate and a pace that is going to require us to
That's Trump's fault,
make considerations
because we're
about
nicer
where
than
we're going
Trump.
to safely house them, and that is something that is under discussion.
Which
in
is
the
fine.
administration,
House them.
But I don't have any, I would just send you to them who oversee, the Department of Homeland Security oversees the process.
And in the current stimulus proposal, the child tax credit is expanded temporarily from $2,000 to $3,000. Would the president's support making that expansion permanent, or any of the other temporary expansions in the bill permanent?
Well,
That's a good question.
interested in exploring options for making the child tax credit permanent.
She's reading those, so
as
there's no
part of the
answer.
Build Back Better agenda.
Build
He's
back better.
heartened to see
Communism,
bipartisan
Marxism,
support for
socialism.
ideas like
Build
this,
back better.
including from Republicans
Take
like
all your
Senator
money,
Romney,
give
but,
it to Mark
we'll
Zuckerberg,
have more to
and
say
then we'll
about all
build
that
it back a
once we get the
penny at
rest
a
of the
time.
Just one more. The president has traveled back to Wilmington a couple of times since taking office. The CDC does still urge people not to travel for personal reasons.
This is a good
Obviously,
question.
presidential travel is very different than commercial travel, but
Obviously.
should the president be doing more to set an example about personal travel?
No, he's the president.
Well, the president lives in Wilmington.
No, he
It's his
doesn't.
home.
He lives in the White
That's where
House.
He's lived for many, many years, and as you know,
He
as any
lives in the
president
White
of the
House,
United
liar.
States does, he takes a
Integrity.
private
Cut away
airplane
the
called Air
integrity.
Force
Cut away
One
the integrity.
To travel there.
You're a
That
liar.
is, of course, a unique.
He lives at the White House.
Unique
Turn
for
around.
most Americans, but I think most Americans would also
It's on
see
the
that
wall.
as a unique circumstance.
No, it's not a unique circumstance. That's her point. Set an example by doing what you're telling everybody else. Rules for thee, not for me. That's exactly what she's saying. That's eroding the trust in our government. Is they're telling us to do one thing and they do the exact opposite. That's what she's saying, but you don't get it.
Wondering, obviously realize they have very different financial circumstances, but when
We don't know. We haven't seen his tax returns. We're not sure.
So there's a possibility
Go ahead,
that
in the
that Biden is a billionaire? Is that what she's saying?
Given we're in March and fewer than
He is,
less than
by the
2
way.
weeks
He
away
got all
from
that
St.
money from
Patrick's
China.
Day, what are the White House plans to mark St. Patrick's Day? We do know that the President Biden, is very proud of
Biden's
his
going to
Irish
turn
heritage
into a
and
lucky
just wants
charm.
to know, do
He's
you
going to
have
be a
any update on
leprechaun.
plans for that?
That's what he's
I
doing
don't
for
have an
St.
update on
Patrick.
specific plans, but the president
He
has a
doesn't know
special
if
place in
he's
his heart
Irish or
for
Scottish
the
or
Irish, as do I,
Welsh.
and
The
I
man
expect
doesn't know
certainly we'll have
what
more
tomorrow
details
is.
to share in the coming soon. Given as you said, it's 2 weeks away. Of course, any recognition of St. Patrick's Day would look different, but from past years. But we will certainly mark the day, and we'll have more to say on it as we get closer.
And there's a second question on trade. This morning, the
On
Biden
trade
administration
and the Lucky
has
Charms.
suspended
Irish
tariffs
didn't
on
get any
UK
Lucky
exports
Charms
part
last
of
week,
the
and we wanted to
Boeing
get
Airbus
some.
ongoing dispute. But also on the on this area today, there
My
are
mask
continuing
won't stand up.
tensions around
keeps
Brexit
falling
in
down
Northern
below
Ireland,
my
and the
nose.
UK has been
Gonna get
accused
kicked out.
of a
Over.
delay in imposing checks between Northern Ireland
His
and
bloody
and
mask.
Great Britain. Where did you
Confound
two
it.
things stand now in the administration? Is a UK-US
It's below my nose
trade
again.
deal that
Yeah, I
and
got to
quote,
stop
any
talking.
trade deals
Yeah, you're not going to
news
answer this one, are
morning,
you, Jen?
In a joint
Let's give it to you.
statement, the United States and the United
Didn't
Kingdom announced
answer
a
the
4-month suspension of tariffs
question.
related to the ongoing large civilian aircraft dispute, and the 4-month tariff suspension was agreed to ease the burden on industry and take a bold joint step towards resolving the longest-running dispute,
Bold
one of the
jump
longest-running
step.
disputes at the
Is
World
it a
Trade
jump or is it a step?
Organization. And certainly, the
reading that.
President Biden has been an unequivocal, I should say, in his
You
support for
should,
the Good
because
Friday
the other
Agreement.
word doesn't make sense.
This agreement has been the
Sorry,
bedrock of peace,
that's just me.
stability, and
I'll
prosperity
stop.
for all. I don't have anything to preview for
Get
you
in
on
here.
that. This is just, of course, an
But I
announcement
love
made
the way
this
you
morning
talk,
that was
so I'm
meant
gonna let
to
you keep asking
de-escalate the
questions.
issue and create.
We're not following the science. It would appear
Science says get a haircut. She's having to answer an old man question. Why doesn't the president say, if you don't wear a mask, you're going to kill your mama? And if your mama's already dead, then you're going to kill your father. And if your father's already dead, you're going to kill your dog. Why doesn't the president say that? You wear your mask or you're going to kill your dog. Well, as you know, the president has always supported dogs. That's why he sent his back to Delaware.
Over in China, what does the president expect from the Europeans in terms of confronting China, which he calls a strategic competitor? And how does the president see the EU-China investment deal which they struck shortly before he took office?
Well, I will say first that in the president's engagements with leaders in the European Union, which were many of his first and early
She's tabbing over
discussions,
for an answer. She's not going to find it, so she's just going to not answer the question.
The relationship with China and working together in partnership and
Blah,
in
blah,
lockstep was certainly central to all of those discussions. In terms of the specific
keep shuffling.
trade agreement,
Can't find it.
or negotiations, I guess I should say.
Yeah,
that
you
was
should
announced
say,
shortly before he took office. I
instead of
believe.
shuffling through
We
the
spoke to
papers.
that at the time. I don't think
She's
I
not
had
going to
anything
answer the
to
question.
review
She's
or
looking for the
comment
answer.
about that.
I'm not going to be able to answer.
Oh,
so
sorry,
I'm
you didn't
just
get to
gonna
one person.
Stop shuffling.
Sorry, Alex. Go ahead. Welcomes debate and welcomes proposals and welcomes ideas on how to address the various crises we're facing, including the climate crisis.
Crises.
It really depends on who you're speaking
The
to.
processes
who
of
you're
the
speaking
crises
about.
is a bunch of
I think
feces.
the president feels confident. Well, the president thinks so highly of her. He nominated her to be the deputy director of OMB,
That didn't
which
answer
is
the
a
question,
very
Jen. That's
senior
not
and
answering.
significant job and role in the administration. All I was conveying is how the process works.
No.
If when the deputy
not a
is
question.
confirmed, knock on wood, they will then become the acting director. Hence, there is a need and an
You're not
imperative
answering the
to move
question.
forward on that quickly. I will reserve his space for him making his own decision about who is going to lead the budget department. We certainly know there's lots of support on Capitol Hill, and again, he thinks so highly of her, he nominated her to serve in a senior role.
You did not answer the question. You
So
literally
are we-
did not answer the question.
I guess, why is the obvious next step not just to appoint her? to
Restate
that
the
top
question.
position?
Well, Ashley, there's a range of individuals in the country who are qualified for the job, so we'll leave him the space and time to make a decision about
Then why
who
weren't
he'd
they
like to
nominated
nominate
for the deputy
as a
position?
replacement for Neera Tanden. Okay, last one, actually, I'm sorry, we've gone over now. Go ahead.
Jen, just a quick.
All right. So, what have we learned from today's briefing? This is the close. This is the takeoff. I don't know. I'm going to think of a catchy phrase there, but I haven't thought of it yet. But I mean, I got to give a little commentary at the end about what we learned from the briefing. And I think what I have taken away from today's briefing is that the more you lie and the more you dodge and the more you don't answer, the more you erode public trust and faith in our government. And you are directly responsible for that, Jen Psaki, and the entire White House press staff. You're responsible for the American people not trusting the highest office in government because you won't give a straight answer. Think about that. Let your legacy be known in history that you are part of the downfall of trust in that great office, President of the United States, because you won't answer a question. Let me give you an example. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary, who will not admit that there's a crisis at the border. There is. There's a major crisis at the border. The president's staff, because the president isn't doing anything, the president's staff has sent down a team to figure out what's going on at the border. And they won't admit that there's a problem, that there's a crisis. Go ahead and admit it. Say, hey guys, we got a huge influx of kids coming into the United States because Joe Biden said 100 days, as many as you can. This is what they heard. 100 days, as many as you can come on in, come on down. Monty Hall. Come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Right. That's what they heard. And so they're showing up en masse. You won't stop it by saying, don't come, stop. No. We didn't mean it. Stop. You're not going to get in. No, they're saying, come on, you'll get in. Fine. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with kids not having to go back to San Salvador, El Salvador, anywhere. They just made this long trip. Don't kick them back. I'm okay with that. Build a facility for them. I'm okay with that. Put them in some closed down military bases. I'm okay with that. But lying about the whole situation, that's what I'm not okay with. Yes, I'm for humanity. Yes, I'm for taking care of kids who shouldn't be here, but they are. Take care of them. We can do it. We have the money. We can take care of them. We have the food. We have the facility. Just stop lying to the American people about the crisis down there. you might get more support. You just might. Now the end. How many ahmas did she say? 200, 300, 400? Once again, if you guess right, you get tickets for a family of 5.5 to Six Flags over Snellville. Let me know. Thanks for watching. Keep watching. I'm going to do this every briefing.